骄傲呀，自豪。本来我是找不到女朋友的，我爸我妈就天天逼我去相亲，相了5年亲，我就觉得我就是可以找到我自己的真爱。然后我老婆就出现了。
我的天哪，这要开放国际婚姻了！
Oh my God, it seems that the trend of international marriage has already begun. The brothers in Guangxi have already tasted it, and many of them have already married foreign wives, with the proportion of men marrying foreign wives as high as 90%. A professor from Xiamen University, Professor Ding, has even suggested that we should open up international marriage and invite eligible women from abroad to solve the marriage difficulties of Chinese men. It seems like Chinese men are really happy about this. These foreign wives don't ask for a bride price, nor do they care about cars or houses. They are simply disrupting the Chinese marriage market and creating unhealthy competition. Some men say that Russian wives are fair-skinned, beautiful, and even have tall figures, but they don't require a bride price, and they don't need cars or houses. Vietnamese wives work diligently, and they don't need cars or houses. Compared to the high costs of Chinese women, marrying a foreign wife is undoubtedly an economical and practical choice. But many Chinese women have different opinions on this, believing that communication with foreign wives is very difficult. Men shouldn't only focus on the novelty of the situation. Looking at it from a long-term perspective, there may be many family conflicts. It's better to marry a Chinese woman. As for whether family conflicts will occur, this is indeed an unknown. But it's undeniable that these new policies are changing our views on marriage. First, marriage no longer requires a household registration book, and now there is a proposal to open up cross-border marriage. Does this mean that most Chinese women have been brainwashed by the power of capital? Nowadays, it seems that if a man doesn't have 500,000 to 600,000 yuan in savings, it's hard for him to get married. I recently realized that the international community holds Chinese men in such high regard. They think Chinese men are pragmatic, family-oriented, and especially sincere to their wives, making them synonymous with good men. Also, Chinese men's infidelity rate is considered to be the lowest in the world. In the eyes of these foreign women, Chinese men's competitiveness is simply top-notch. Suddenly, I'm feeling confused. What about the men around me? The men I know don't seem that excellent. Could it be that I've only met second-rate men? Sisters, what are the men around you like? Why do foreign women have such low requirements for men? I'm starting to feel a bit lost and really can't make sense of it anymore.
我是搞不定中国女人了，我才娶了一个外国女人，因为我觉得娶中国女人是最难的。
I really can't pursue Chinese women anymore, so in the end, I decided to marry a foreign woman. Actually, I've always felt that marrying a Chinese woman is the hardest thing. At that time, my wife was studying in China, and we met while she was here. She was only here for half a year, and I knew that if we started a relationship, we'd eventually face the issue of a long-distance relationship, and might even break up. I already anticipated these things. Then one day, I couldn't hold back my thoughts anymore, and finally confessed to her that I was worried about the future of our relationship. After hearing this, she calmly said, "It's okay, you can think about it some more." When I heard her say that, I felt a little reassured. So, I decided to think about it some more, and later that night I gathered my courage and said to her, "Let's date then." And so, our relationship began. 6 months later she went back to Russia, and I returned to my hometown. However, I planned to go to Russia to visit her later, and I intended to propose to her during this trip. After all, I figured I'd go there once, and while I was at it, I would settle the matter of marriage. At that time I didn't have much confidence, and I thought she might not accept my proposal, although I was feeling fairly confident before setting off. When I arrived in Russia and reached the place I had planned for the proposal, I started to hesitate. I thought, forget it, if it doesn't work out here, I'll just try the next place. I kept changing locations, walking around and around, and by the time night fell, I still hadn't made up my mind to propose. Finally that night I returned to the hotel where I was staying. The next day I was supposed to meet her parents, and I thought it would be best to confirm our relationship before meeting them. I kept hesitating, but in the end, I gathered the courage to propose. I took out the ring and asked her to marry me. To my surprise, she really said yes. In that moment, I felt like the happiest man in the world. When I returned home and talked to my friends about it, they all said that I had made Chinese men proud, and this kind of thing was worth celebrating. Although my friends were joking about it, these things didn't really matter. In life, the real challenges are only known to you yourself. What others think doesn't matter. No matter what kind of woman you marry, you will face different difficulties and problems in the future. My friends didn't understand these things. They were just looking at everything from the outside. In fact, every family's life is unique. Whether or not you are happy ultimately depends on whether you can find the one who truly loves you.
哎呀，在家天天憋屈啊。
My Chinese husband and I went for a walk. Staying at home every day is so stifling, isn't it? There's no point in keeping it all in, right? I want to go out for a walk every day, get some fresh air, and take a stroll with him. Otherwise, I really feel suffocated. Sometimes he asks me, why did you choose a Chinese husband? Actually, I think my husband is a very gentle and kind person, and he's very good with words. Every time he asks me this, I just smile and reply, of course I like Chinese men. You know, recently, more and more Chinese people are marrying foreigners. I think this is becoming a trend. He says he likes Russian girls, which makes me really happy. Because he often asks me, why do Russian girls like Chinese men so much? I happily tell him, Russian girls especially like Chinese men because they are not only handsome but also good at cooking. They are very considerate in daily life, they love their wives, and they even wash the dishes, do the laundry, and clean the house. With such men, which Russian girl wouldn't want a Chinese husband? Where in Russia can we find such good men? When my husband hears me praising him, he blushes and gets a little embarrassed. It warms my heart. Sometimes, my husband also asks me, why didn't you find another better Chinese guy? I tell him that I think he's already great, especially how good he is to me. I'm particularly curious though, that with so many good Chinese men, why do Chinese women still want a bride price, a house and a car? Don't Chinese women worry that all the good Chinese men will go to Russia to find wives? If that really happens, what will Chinese girls do? They'll have no husbands left, haha. I told my husband, if we have a son, he can also marry a Russian girl in the future. My husband jokingly said that I'm really clever because this way we can save a lot of money on the bride price. I laughed and told him, you're not allowed to say things like that. I'm not trying to save on the bride price, I just think Russian girls are really great. In the future, our son should marry a chubby Russian girl, just like me. Chubby Russian girls are lucky, haha.
外国女孩正在用廉价的彩礼冲击中国市场。
Foreign women are currently using cheap dowries to challenge the Chinese market. Some domestic women have begun to view this phenomenon differently, even expressing dissatisfaction. This has sparked a lot of discussion, with some arguing that foreign women don't require dowries, houses, or cars, and this marriage model may impact traditional Chinese marriage views. Some even criticize Russian women for rejecting dowries, accusing them of disrupting the domestic marriage market. These critics argue that these foreign brides do not demand high dowries and do not have high expectations for houses and cars, which challenges some traditional Chinese values. Some male netizens have pointed out that foreign brides, especially those from Southeast Asia, are hardworking and have low demands, which makes them more suitable for rural young men to marry. For these men, the economic pressure of dowries, houses, cars, and other marriage-related costs is unbearable. Marriage almost means emptying out the family's savings, making it difficult to cope with the high demands of the domestic marriage market. Therefore, marrying a foreign wife has become a last resort for many. However, in response to these male perspectives, many female netizens have raised different views. They believe that cultural and language differences with foreign women might lead to marital conflicts. They worry that these differences could create tension in family relationships. They argue that marriage is not just about economic costs but also about compatibility in terms of personality, habits, and cultural differences. Although many men are attracted to the lower economic demands of foreign women, many others believe that mutual compatibility is the most important factor. Despite this, the trend of foreign marriages continues to grow, and this is an undeniable fact. According to data, in 2018, the proportion of Chinese men marrying foreign wives first surpassed that of women marrying foreigners. By 2019, the number of men marrying foreign wives was 29,000, at least 10,000 more than the number of women marrying foreign husbands. In 2022, this trend became even more pronounced, with 10,054 men marrying foreign wives, compared to 7,137 women marrying foreign husbands. proportion of Chinese men marrying foreign wives is approaching 60%, and in Guangxi, this proportion is as high as 92%. In Guangxi, 9 out of 10 marriages involve local men marrying foreign women, most of whom are from Vietnam. Russian women are also actively marrying Chinese men and becoming part of this trend. Why is this phenomenon happening? In fact, Chinese men have a very good reputation internationally. Many foreign women believe that Chinese men are hardworking, ambitious, and affectionate toward their wives, qualities that make them ideal partners for many foreign women. In Russia, if a man treats a woman well, her parents may even buy him a car or a house, as long as the man is honest and reliable. Many Russian women who marry Chinese men do not regret their decision. However, the situation in the domestic market is more complicated. For example, in a recent matchmaking event held in Hangzhou, the results were surprising. The venue was almost entirely filled with women, while the number of men was very small. In some cities, the gender ratio in the marriage market has become seriously imbalanced, with some places having a ratio as high as 1:40. The exaggerated demands of Chinese women have made it difficult for many men in the market, especially those with annual salaries below 200,000 yuan, who find it almost impossible to compete. Some women, even though they do not own a car, house, or savings, are still dissatisfied if a man's monthly income is only 30,000 yuan, feeling that he cannot meet their expectations for marriage, such as owning a villa, a luxury car, or having an annual salary of 1 million yuan. In this situation, if you were a Chinese man, would you choose a Chinese woman or a foreign one?
有个男的发视频说，找个外国老婆不用彩礼，白得一个免费劳动力。
A man posted a video claiming that marrying a foreign wife doesn't require a dowry, essentially getting free labor. This kind of statement is very typical, reflecting a wanting but not giving mentality. Wanting all the benefits for himself but unwilling to pay anything in return. In fact, these people are no different from those who advocate for the cancellation of dowries. Anyone who supports abolishing dowries is essentially someone who wants to take but not give. If you feel that dowries are too expensive or that you don't want one at all, you can simply choose not to get married. There's no need to argue about this issue. Marriage is voluntary, and there's no need to dispute it excessively. However, if a man is very eager to get married but doesn't want to pay a dowry, he will repeatedly advocate for the cancellation of dowries. I think it might be acceptable if a couple doesn't plan to have children after marriage and splits the household chores evenly, but these two conditions are nearly impossible to meet. Especially for someone like me living in an open first-tier city like Shenzhen, I've never encountered a man who wants to get married but doesn't want to have children. Many men want to get married but don't want to pay a dowry. They justify it by claiming that dowries objectify women, turning them into commodities. I personally don't agree with this viewpoint, especially since some economists compare marriage to running a company, which I find quite fitting. In a company, women often bear more responsibility and labor, such as pregnancy, childbirth, and breastfeeding, while men only need to pay a certain dowry. Doesn't this seem like a reasonable cost? If both parties enter into marriage, it's like co-managing a family business, so their contributions should be balanced. Marriage isn't about one person being in charge while the other is a subordinate or a commodity. We are both independent individuals with our own subjectivity. In this relationship, the dowry is a necessary cost for the man to enter into this marriage, and it doesn't turn a woman into an object. There's no issue of objectifying women here. The purpose of a dowry is to maintain equality and responsibility within the marriage. Those who always want to get married but refuse to contribute and want to avoid paying the dowry are more selfish. They want to enjoy all the benefits of marriage but don't want to pay any price. This mentality is the true form of objectifying oneself, as it shows that they view marriage as a way to enjoy benefits without taking on any responsibilities. This kind of man is the one who truly objectifies himself. He is the one who is truly useless.
我看到这个视频，我有点心动了。
After watching this video, I've become a little interested. I've never considered finding a foreign wife before, but now after watching this video, I've had a new idea. The cost of finding a wife in China is really too high right now. Not only do you need a car and a house, but also a 500,000 yuan betrothal gift. Just think about it, how many men can meet these requirements? For people like us who come from rural areas and have been struggling outside for more than 10 years, it's already a great achievement if we can buy a car and a house. Now I have a car and a house, but I really can't come up with the 500,000 yuan betrothal gift. And in recent years, due to the economic environment, making money is getting harder and harder, and business is becoming more difficult. So now, I really think that in a few years, if I can save up some money, I wonder if any brothers would be willing to go abroad and find a wife. Anyway, right now, I've lost confidence in Chinese women. Some people might say, can't you find a suitable young girl? Then go for a divorced woman. But honestly, divorced women are not as simple as people imagine. If they were doing well, why would they have divorced? Usually, divorced women have higher expectations and become more realistic. They have gone through a marriage, so their views on relationships are more mature and rational. In most cases, divorced women have already given all their love to their ex-husbands and children, leaving only their helplessness and complaints about their previous marriage for you. They will compare you with their ex-husbands and give you nothing but negative emotions. Honestly, if I had a choice, I'd rather stay single than marry a divorced woman. My parents always say, you're not young anymore, you're over 30. If you can't find a young girl, just find a divorced one. But I really don't think a divorced woman will offer the kind of beautiful love we imagine. They have long lost interest in love. What they care about more is material things, such as whether you can provide the lifestyle they want, and if you can satisfy their material needs. This is the real demand of many divorced women. So, now there are really a lot of divorced women. So many that it's overwhelming. They're almost everywhere. I really want to find a foreign wife.
Why do so many Chinese men prefer to marry foreign women? Is it because Chinese women are really inferior to foreign women? Is it a case of worshiping foreign culture? Or is there something more to it? A friend of mine works in the wedding industry and is often extremely busy. One time, she asked us to help with a wedding event, and what shocked me wasn't the scale of the wedding, but the composition of the couples on stage. There were 6 pairs of newlyweds in total, and every groom was Chinese, but none of the brides were Chinese. Some were from Russia, others from Vietnam. Looking at this scene, I was truly stunned and speechless. After the wedding, I found out that these foreign brides were introduced by friends, and many of them were studying abroad in China. The reason these Chinese men marry foreign wives is not because they cannot meet Chinese women, nor because they have a fetish for foreign culture. It's because these foreign women have fewer demands in marriage. For example, they don't ask for a car, a house, or an expensive dowry. In contrast, Chinese women often have much more stringent requirements in marriage. Many Chinese girls expect the man to buy a house and a car first, and the house title must include their name. After marriage, if the man earns less, he might be criticized for being unsuccessful. If the man earns more, he might be accused of neglecting the family. It seems that no matter how hard a man tries, it's hard to fully satisfy a woman. Moreover, even if they're already married, in the event of a divorce, the division of property becomes a big issue, making the risk very high. Honestly, these demands are almost God-level standards, and it's difficult to find someone who meets all the conditions in reality. But the most important thing is, do these Chinese women themselves have the same conditions? You may have good looks, education, and abilities, but do you have your own career, savings, or property? If you don't meet these basic conditions, how can you ask the other party to meet such high standards? Fortunately, many Chinese men have now become aware and are more willing to marry foreign wives. This is because they feel that being with these foreign women brings lighter economic burdens, and their demands are more reasonable. For instance, they can save money together to buy a house, and they can also work hard together to purchase a car. If this trend continues, do you think it will be more difficult for modern Chinese women to find a partner? Feel free to leave your comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Your support is very important to us, and we will continue to provide better content. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time.